Why start a YouTube channel if you think you're terrible at it? You'd have to be either crazy, very creative, or have a very compelling why to get started on YouTube, because you probably need all of the above, because it is a very hard platform to use, especially with so much competition nowadays. So in today's video, we will discuss how one can stand out in today's overcrowded YouTube platform. How will you shine so others can see? Good morning, sunshine. It's time to rise and shine. Welcome back to my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you're here for the very first time, I'm here to help you design a life you love by using a journal. So you can now join my waitlist to get into my courses for free until I launch my paid program. The link is provided below. Let's get started. I won't share with you technical details about getting started on YouTube, but rather keep it simple as usual and give you what you need to start by just sharing my story. Now, getting on YouTube is probably the worst platform to choose to be invisible online. I can't begin to tell you the crazy emotional, psychological yo-yo of doing this challenge to create 30 videos. I'm only on my day 7 with my 30-day challenge when I should have already been done 2 months ago. I had a lot of things happening at once. Some of it are just health reasons, hormonal changes, having trouble sleeping, and a whole load of other family matters. And yes, they're all excuses to take breaks. But hey, at least I haven't quit just yet, and I don't plan on it. But as promised, I will have to cut a lot of inches off my head as a penalty. Now, that's part of my 30-day challenge, which I explained on the first video. So here's my experience so far. Getting started was very hard because it meant finding the courage to get over my fears. My son Alex told me to just get on the video and practice. He said, "Mom, just practice, just press record and start your YouTube videos. And don't overthink it, just practice and get on your phone." And he was right, and most YouTube experts will tell you the same. Then I shared my concern. Well, what if my weird side comes out? He said, "Then be weird, Mom, you're good at that." Actually, this son of mine has a very weird way of getting me out of my comfort zone. So Dr. Seuss said it best, I think. He said, "We are all a little weird and life's a little weird. And when we find someone whose weirdness is compatible with ours, we join up with them and fall in mutual weirdness and call it love." I just love Dr. Seuss. He's the best. So I finally wrote my script, and that took forever to figure out. Then I finally got on video. I even bought fancy camera and equipment, but I didn't know how to use it. So I went back to the phone. Yeah, try not to go fancy in the beginning. Just keep it simple and use your phone. Then I did something smart. I decided to hire a video editor to help me with my YouTube videos. Otherwise, it will take me forever to produce it. So the first video, oh, the horror of it, okay? It was a 10-minute video. It took me 3 days to try and film it. It's a good thing I actually paid my editor in advance so that I wouldn't back out. It was a good move on my part. I felt accountable. It's from my experience that when you pay, you play. So your skin is really in the game when you've invested money. So yes, you're invested when you've invested. Remember that. So my first video had a little too much filter, so it was kind of bad. It was pretty bad, actually. I didn't want to redo it, but I learned from it fast. And then for the next videos, it got better. So that's what you have to do. Just get started and make corrections along the way. So when the first video was finally edited, I didn't even want to watch it, but I had to practice to tolerate and love myself. And then next, the technical details that has to go into the video, like the thumbnails, the titles, the descriptions, it was just overwhelming. I think I probably had a meltdown because I couldn't move. I laid there and watched Netflix for a few days. I was just exhausted. And then finally, it was that time to upload it on YouTube and publish it. I literally froze. All my fears just came flooding back into my head again. And luckily, I remembered the time when I had to do a very similar thing that was very hard to do. It meant being very weird and getting embarrassed. And I purchased an online business accelerator course back in 2020. And one of the requirements was to do a video challenge on Facebook. So the very first challenge was to do a snow angel on a busy public floor. That's right, public floor. And a lot of people did it and posted it immediately online. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't see myself doing it. There was just no way. But I paid for the darn program program, so I had to do it. I didn't want to waste my money. When you pay, you play, remember that. So unlike getting free things here on YouTube, 99% of the time, we don't execute what we learn. So I asked my hubby to help me record the video, and we finally did it. We were at the local grocery store, and he just pushed me to go on the floor and just do it. So I felt the fear and I did it anyways, and it was done. I couldn't believe I paid to do something that was so stupid. I see a parallel in both the Snow Angel experience and my YouTube challenge. Publishing your video is definitely the hardest part, and then sharing it on social is a total different level. So it could paralyze you. So you have to make sure that you have the right mindset for it. Your mindset is definitely a game changer. Perhaps the biggest challenge on YouTube is, how will we stand out? Well, let me ask you, how will you stand out if you try to be as perfect as everyone else out there? The perfect hair, the perfect makeup, voice, equipment, clothes, house, etc. We all start looking the same, don't we? And honestly, I find that a little boring. So here's a few scenarios that can illustrate my point across. My husband and I, we love to travel and eat out. We particularly love cruising because we get to visit a lot of places at once. And even though I get vertigo, but it doesn't last long and it's worth it. So we like to go on small adventures, and I totally love taking photos and videos, but my husband says, you don't even post it, Rose. So now I am ready to do it on YouTube. It's a great way to document our travels with no thought of monetizing it or worrying about views. So it's just for our own library. But that may change soon because I want to try to at least travel for free, and I bet I can do it too. So here's the channel I created, and my Instagram had already been created years ago, but I will reactivate it now that I have a little bit more time. I will create another video on this topic and share my progress in the future videos on how I monetize this channel. So speaking of travel, last year my husband and I decided to take a trip to BC to visit my youngest son. We live in Montreal, which is almost at the other end of Vancouver, and we decided to take the plane out there and then drive and take a long scenic trip all the way back home. And we were quite excited to see the western part of Canada because we've only seen the eastern side. We love seeing the ocean and beaches, but we have never seen the Rocky Mountains. And so on our drive were these humongous mountains that took my breath away. I usually fall asleep as a passenger on a 20-minute drive anywhere, but this time I was fully awake for very long hours every single day. And my phone was full of pictures of the beautiful mountains that surprised me at every corner of the highway. I couldn't stop snapping photos. I marveled at how beautiful and grandiose those mountains were and how God has created them so beautifully. I was just mesmerized. And then I had run out of room on my camera phone. I must have taken over 1,000 photos of just mountains. Now my husband laughed and asked, aren't they all the same? He was right. So while deleting the photos, I was reflecting on what I can learn from this experience. It was like a showcase or a competition of the greatest, prettiest mountains. And I'm not sure why, but my mind was directed to social media influencers like YouTubers or popular online celebrities. Perhaps my insecurities of going online was coming out. Suddenly, I had an epiphany. I imagined that some of us are trying to be like these incredible mountains, standing tall, powerful, and grandiose, all seeking attention and praise, all trying to stand out, stand taller than the other. It got my attention. I was like a paparazzi snapping photos of mountains for hours. But after a while, there's so many of them on my phone that they all started to blend in and look the same. Once again, it kind of reminds me of Dr. Seuss's quote. He says, why fit in when you were born to stand out? He's right. So as we drove away from the Rockies and into a small, beautiful ski village or resort in Banff, that's Banff, Alberta, the big mountains became further out of sight and there were just a few smaller mountains in town. It was a nice change of scenery. However, there was one mountain in particular that stood out during our little nature trail walk at a place called Bow Falls Viewpoint. It caught my eyes because it was much smaller and quite oddly shaped. It looked like God forgot to complete it because it wasn't tall or majestic like the others, and it had an imperfect form at the peak. Nonetheless, it was still beautiful. I was getting getting deeply inspired again by that breathtaking view. What was it teaching me now? Anyways, we kept walking towards it, and at the foot of the mountain was a small river to add to the impressive scenery, with a waterfall that flowed towards it. Meanwhile, the gushing sound of the water made me want to go use the toilet that was non-existent. It was a good thing that I was caught up in the beautiful surroundings and forgot about going to the washroom. I love nature, and this time I felt like nature's beauty and flow was directing my life path. It was gently reminding me of our unique human existence, like this small yet weirdly shaped mountain shared its beauty in an imperfect way. Right there and then, I was learning that being different doesn't have to be scary. We shouldn't worry about being majestic or grandiose. We just need to shine imperfectly like that mountain. And like the waterfall that naturally flowed towards it, we will have our own set of eyes who will appreciate us and flow towards us. I was elated for this new lesson from nature. So I took my skipping rope and jumped for joy. Which brings me to another story about skipping rope across Canada. Yes, you heard right. So during this trip across Canada, I decided to skip rope at every province or little town we visited. I did it in weird places where it's public, like busy highways, rest areas, and many of the country's scenic views. Now, one of the iconic places I decided to skip rope was my husband's idea. He wanted us to find the border for the time zone change. So while driving, my husband was pressuring me to find the next time zone transition spot on Google. And I had such a hard time because some areas didn't have phone signals. He kept nagging me and telling me to go faster, and he was literally getting me angry. He was taking the fun out of the whole experience. So I threw a small tantrum and put my phone down and ignored him during the remainder of the drive. So of course, we missed the time zone spot, but my mind was made up. I was never going to skip rope again, maybe for the rest of my life, because he ruined it. So he said he was just trying to make it more interesting and apologized right away. We were both tired, and yes, he drove the whole time, so I needed to be nice if I wanted to get back home. So the next day, he proposed the next time zone area and Googled it in advance. It was now in between Manitoba and Ontario. When we arrived, I got my rope and of course walked up to the sign and started skipping. Somehow my husband likes to kind of put me on a platform or stage so everybody can see me. I played along because I like a dare when I hear it. Okay, not always, but why not, right? I'm sure the truck drivers or passerbys were entertained or at least had something to talk about. So I was a bit embarrassed, but hey, I didn't know any of these people, so what the heck, right? Until 2 days later, we were back on the road again, and I really had to take a bathroom break. We missed quite a few clean looking rest areas, and so we just randomly decided to pull into a park. It was a bit scary because I don't like outhouses. They freak me out, but what choice did I have, right? So we pulled in and I dashed out of the car as fast as I could and I ran into the outhouse. I didn't care anymore and I just closed my eyes as usual because I always worry that a frog or something might jump out. Outside, I can hear my husband's voice and other people chatting as if he had met someone he knew. I thought, hey, that's impossible. We were like thousands of miles away from home. But I heard them and they were laughing and very friendly. So I thought, okay, they must know each other. So I got out of the outhouse and the man standing by his trailer yelled out, "Hey, skipping rope girl!" I wish I had my video on because it was priceless. Then the laughing started again. So no, it wasn't a friend of my hubby. It was just a total stranger on the road who happened to see us 2 days ago. What were the chances of being in the same spot at the same time with all the many different stops we made and the random things that happened in between, right? And how did he even remember our faces? So I couldn't believe it and it just made me laugh out loud. I tried to explain to them that I was just skipping for a school project for social media, but I was just doing it for fun and to collect memories. But here it is today and being used to teach as an example. So here's what I learned. Dr. Seuss is right. He says, why fit in when you were born to stand out? So I thought about it. Perhaps meeting them wasn't just a coincidence, but a divine confirmation that I needed to learn to be myself and to stand out uniquely. And that in order to be seen, you need to be unique, be weird, and be imperfect. So I hope this encourages you to stand out and shine imperfectly. So I'd like to end this first week video with this powerful quote that says, "Be like the sun. Never let the opinions of those who hate you dull your shine." So don't wait to be perfect. Go shine imperfectly. Tomorrow we start week 2. That's exciting. Now that I've found the courage to post these videos, I'm ready to go share it with others. I encourage you to like and share it if you feel it was helpful for you. Till then, à la prochaine, mes amis!